experience, strength, and hope. And we have Kylie, who is going to introduce that member.
My name's Kylie, and I'm an editor.
Hi, Kylie.
So it's always an honor to be asked to introduce someone. So when Billy asked me, I was like, oh, that's so awesome, thank you. Because I feel like that's what recovery is. One thing that I remember about Billy is, it was a couple years ago. I had never seen him before, and then I saw him at every single meeting, at every single function. If there's 3 meetings in a day, you can guarantee that Billy would have been at all 3. And that just shows what kind of willingness he had and what kind of willingness he has today. I remember that first year, he showed up to everything. And he got a lot of phone numbers. But what I remember most about Billy is he didn't just get phone numbers and put them in his phone. Like, I saw him get phone numbers and actually reach out to people and try and figure out how this program works. And this last year, I've gotten to get really close with Billy. I would like to say that I'm a part of that support network that he utilizes. And he always keeps me on my toes. He'll just ask me randomly throughout a random day, like, hey, what's your take on this bullet right here? And I'm like, dude, now I gotta think about it, and it inspires me in my own recovery. And that's what I really love about Billy is the willingness to take the suggestions of others. I see him take these suggestions and try to apply them to his life and grow and get better because of them, or decide that, hey, that one didn't work for me, on to the next one. And that's what I think recovery is in a nutshell, is having the trust in another person, and trusting their word and applying it to our lives to see if it works to help our situation better. And it's just been so awesome to see the progress that he's made in his life this last year, because that second year, I remember, it was not easy. That's where all the growing happened, and that's where I've seen you grow the most this year, Billy. So let's hear your story. Thanks for letting me share.
I'm Billy, and I'm an addict.
Billy.
Grateful to be clean, grateful to my higher power to let me wake up this morning. It's a blessing these days to be able to wake up. A little bit about me. I'm the baby of 8. I have 6 sisters and a brother. I have a sister that I've lost to the disease. That she graduated high school the year I was born, and we're from upstate New York. Everybody but me. I was the only one born down here in Florida, and it's coming from a big family. But like, I just had a sister celebrate. She just turned 60 a couple days ago. So there's a big age gap in all of us. There's 6 years between me and my oldest, the next sister in line, and I was born and raised in Arbordale. Went to school. Sometimes, up until I was about a junior. But between my parents' divorce, sometimes I go back and I try to see where it happened. It was when my parents divorced when I was 12, and my dad was a truck driver, and I'd never seen him. He was gone. I was lucky to see him 2 days a month, if I was lucky. And my mom was the stay-at-home mom with all the children, but like I said, it was a big gap, so there was never more than like 3 or 4 of us at the house at one time. But they divorced when they were 12, or when I was 12. Not that. And I feel like they played me. They both wanted me to lie, to them. My mom wanted me to lie to my dad. My dad wanted to lie to my mom. They never wanted to know what was going on between them two. So, like I said, I went to live with my mom at an apartment complex, and that's when it really happened. My mom started chasing men. My dad was never home, and that's when the fun really started to begin for Billy, because I had no rules. Billy could do whatever I wanted at 12 years old. I was drinking with the people at the pool, playing volleyball at the pool, all the way up until, and that's at 12 years old. That's when I was introduced to my favorite game, which is bowling, and that became, on top of that, the bowling alley became my mom's babysitter. She dropped me off there and just hope and prayed one of the older guys would bring me home. I get home somehow. Somebody at the bowling alley was bringing Billy home at 12 years old, and I never really seen my mom either, at that point. So I was just like 12, 13 years old and living in this apartment by myself. And my mom, the guy that she was seeing, lived in an apartment complex with us for the next 2 or 3 years. That's how it worked. And when I turned 16, the year before that, the couple times that I've been arrested, the one time the first time was, I got caught shoplifting at Walmart. Me and a buddy of mine, had a buddy that I went to high school with that worked in the garden center, and me and this other guy for about 6 months did whatever we wanted in Walmart and just walked right out the garden center, and eventually got caught, got put in jail for not even the night. They put you in a holding cell back then, and this is where looking back on it, my mom kind of picked me up like she was picking me up from the bowling alley. There was no consequences. I didn't get in trouble. It was just, I got in the car, we went back to the house, and that was it, just didn't get put on restriction. But when I turned 16, I moved in, my stepdad and my mom and me, we finally got our own place, and the party still happened. They were, I don't know, looking back on it, I don't even know what the hell they were thinking. They were like, just even my parents were telling me to put the beer in the fridge. There's no sense of hiding it, blah, 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 and I'd have parties at the apartments, and it was just a disaster. And then my first job I got at the bowling alley, imagine that, right? And I got high on my first night with the head mechanic. And I did that for a little while, and then I started to dip into the harder drugs between like 18 to 20. And at 20 years old, I met my wife at the bowling alley. Imagine that, right? And we got together. We worked 2 jobs for the longest time at the bowling alley and at the Winter Haven Hospital. Worked 8-hour, 16-hour days for a little while till my son was born. And one thing that sticks out with me is I'll never forget. My son was a hemophiliac carrier, or she's a hemophiliac carrier, and he had meconium when he was born. So there was a good chance he wasn't going to make it. He was born, and they rushed him right to the unit, and I'll just never forget, because she's quite a bit older than me. She was like, "You better hope he makes it. I'm getting my tubes tied tomorrow." And I was like, "Wow," And he spent 10 days in intensive care before he got to come home. And that was the first time, so I didn't even get to hold him. It was really crazy. I was able to go up and see him, but I couldn't hold him. And it was because he was 7 pounds. I mean, he looked perfect. It was just amazing. He looked like the perfect little kid. And these twins over here that are 2 pounds, and they were like, these twins are in better health than your kid is. And I just didn't understand that at the time, being so young, having the kids. That I got fortunate enough that he obviously made it. Some of y'all met him, So. But it's come to find out it's a blessing that he was a hemophiliac. He got tested 6 months after he was born, and the test came back negative. And so we went on with our little life. It wasn't until let's see. I want to say, she's 32, 25. So, I don't know, like a year or two, maybe 3 years into our relationship, my stepdaughter came to live with us. And she was 10 at the time. And, I was still just alcohol was always my drug of choice for forever. And I dabbled with the other stuff, but alcohol was definitely the poison for me. And my stepdaughter came to live with us, and she, at 15 years old, she got pregnant. And she ended up having my granddaughter Madison at 16, and I was 31 years old and I was a grandpa. And she skipped a year, and then Landon came the next year. So by the time she graduated high school, I'd already had 2 grandkids. And I don't know. It was, looking back on it, definitely. I mean, I didn't care what she did. I probably enabled her most of the time. I just did my own shit. As long as you didn't screw with me, you could do whatever you wanted. It's the kind of way I was raised. And it wasn't to move on a little bit. I've already passed the other time I got caught and went to jail, so we won't even go there. It was just spent a couple hours there, but I'm just trying to think. When I was 35, 36, I was 36 years old, I had a heart attack. I don't know if a lot of you, but me and the wife, we were together for the longest we were together. Over 3/4 of that time, we worked 2 different shifts. She worked the midnight shift and I worked day shift, so we'd always see it on passing. I think that's why we stayed together so long, because she only had to deal with me for a couple hours a day. And because she's not one of us. And she, I had a heart attack. I went 4 times from November to January. 4 times I went to the hospital with chest pains, and I got sent home all 4 times. And that morning, it was a Sunday morning, January 21st, I won't forget it. I woke up, and me and the wife had relations, and right after that, like literally, I had the heart attack, and I thought it was anxiety. I really did, because it felt like it, like the 4 times I got sent home. And I was on my way. I drove myself to the hospital, and as I was going around the lake, I come up by the other fellowship right there in Winter Haven, and I knew right when I came up the hill there, but on the lake, that it wasn't anxiety this time. It was the real deal. And I don't know how I managed to get from that McDonald's right there on 6th Street to the hospital driving, but they took me right in, and this is one of the most embarrassing moments of my life, I feel like, anyway. As I'm going into the hospital, they put the EKGs on, the stickers on me, they run the EKG, they yank it off, and they put me in there, and these 4 beautiful blondes are in there, right? That's my nurses. And they tell me I have to get naked. Right, it's like this is where my life really changed. And so I got down to my underwear, right, and they were going like, nah. I was like, they say you gotta take it all off, right? And I'm like, oh shit. I'm like, I don't have any blood flow. Y'all know what I'm saying? I had no blood flow. It was cold. It was cold in there. So they managed. I get into the cardiologist room, and I don't know if some people that's had casts and all that. They take in there, and it's really cold in there. It's really cold, and the bed's really cold, and you're naked, and you're laying on the thing, and they bring you this warm blanket, like it's like they just take it out of the oven, and it's like the greatest thing ever at the time, and. I just remember the cardiologist coming up, and the next thing I remember, I'm being wheeled into ICU. And as I'm getting wheeled in, I look over my shoulder, and I said, man, God must have been really looking after me today. Because the nurse's name was an Angel. Right? And I'll never forget them. And they took me in there, and it was the most miserable. Of course, I mean, I guess I could complain about it. I made it, but I don't know if they had to wrap me around the bed, my legs, because you can't move, because they go up to the groin, and they wrapped you, so you're it's just, it sucks. It was almost as painful, not painful, but aggravating as when I was having the heart attack. But I made it through, and I thought, I did a lot of damage to myself over those years, and it was just, I just didn't, I don't know, I can't even explain it. But I went back to work a couple weeks later, and I was so fatigued, and I still get that way, that I just can't. I can't do nearly what I could do in the past. I mean, I fell out of love with the game of bowling when I had the heart attack. I was probably at the peak of when I was bowling at the time. I was probably it was the highest I've ever averaged. I was throwing honor scores up every week, and then when I came up the next week, and I just I couldn't throw it like I just didn't have the velocity anymore. And it sucks, but it's but I carried on. I worked at that time. I'm working for a janitorial company right around the corner. Since they've moved. But the reason why I bring that up is there's a vet right beside us at the janitorial place, right? And I worked beside this addict that's in the rooms for 15 years at this vet, and I never knew it. Never once did I know she was in the program until I came in the program and I bumped into her in the program. And it was amazing, that little janitorial store, how many addicts came through there. Once I figured out they were all in here. It's it was, and some of them, I mean, like, I guess I sold toilet paper at the janitorial store, but I sold all the janitorial supplies, but there's a couple of people that looking back on it, that I guess like Bill T, which was like a big part of Heartland area. I sold toilet paper to that dude for over 12, 13 years and never knew he was in the program. Tony P. Tony P was another one. We sold toilet paper to him, and I worked beside him. I golfed with Tony. Yeah, it wasn't. I was fucked up, but sorry. But it was. I don't know how Tony. I guess he just laughed underneath his breath. But to go back to the heart attack, and then like I said, I worked there, and I just got to the point to where I felt like the company, they were quite a bit older than me, that they were getting ready to retire. And I felt like it was time for me to change jobs at the time, because I made good money there, not doing a damn thing. And I went back to a printing press place, a print shop. And while I was there, I ended up having emergency gallbladder surgery within the first 4 or 5 months I was there. And when I went in to have the emergency, it was a Monday, and when I woke up, it was Thursday. I dropped into a coma for Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and it didn't even. I don't still remember, and it was the one time that I woke up and there was 3 beers in the in the room, and the wife was not happy at all about this. But obviously, I was, because I drank those 3 beers, even just after having emergency gallbladder surgery. But I guess I was detoxing so bad that that's what that's what the doctor ordered. So I was cool with it, and I eventually I came back from that surgery, and somehow I got wrote up 6 times at the print shop. Ended up losing that job, and that's when I really started to go hard. I got a job at Florida Southern College doing maintenance and the flooring, what I do now. But in the midst of all this, I used to go down to the neighbor's house, and she was a little bootlegger. She had everything right there, and that's what I did. That was my thing. I went down there and hung out, played dominoes, blah blah, this and that. Well, when I went to work for the college, I was a good functioning addict if I could get up at 8 o'clock and go to work. But if you asked me to try to get up or wait till 1 and work that 9 to 9:30, I was gonna be tore up by the time I got to work at 1 o'clock. And got sent home many times because I smelled like alcohol. But I didn't last long at Florida Southern College because I couldn't stay clean. I couldn't stay sober enough to get to work to be able to. I was able to get there, I just wasn't able to do anything. And I went from Florida Southern College to Polk State College, and once I got to Polk State College, I started working from 6 to 2, and I was able to do that. I was able to get up at 5 and go to work at 6 without drinking, and get off at 2, and then anyway, that I came to a screeching halt after. Me and the wife was together for 17 years, and up until the heart attack, that was the only reason. The only reason why we got married was she put me on the health insurance, and so she came. I don't know. I started at the college in August, and in October she came home. October 26th, actually. It was just an anniversary, another anniversary of mine. The day she left, and I'll never forget it. She just came home, and I'd heard it so many times that she was leaving, and I just blew it off she wasn't leaving. And I went and did something, and I came back, and she was gone. She had taken her, the kid, the dogs, and they'd been planned it out. And here I was just sitting in this rental home that didn't have the rent money. So I didn't plan anything out, and I was fortunate to the people that I was we were renting from let me stay there a week. In that week time, I was able to get with a buddy of mine, a family friend or childhood friend, that he let me stay there, and I just couldn't quit drinking, and I went homeless like that, in a less than a month time. I went from living in a family home to sleeping in a tent behind somebody's shed with a job, with a vehicle, in less than a month. Getting up, when I was at Polk State, I had to get there I had to shower, do all that. I have my own shower stall in the FAA building, and I did that for a little while. I did that. And then I gradually, in the meantime, now I'm single. I'm going to be pulling all these chicks, and I'm going to be bringing them back to the shed. You know what I'm saying? And that was the highlight. That's what my mind was telling me. That there's got to be somebody out there that's want to come back to the shed with me, because I went from the camp. I went from the tent to across the street to the shed. I stayed there for a couple months, and that was probably the greatest place I've lived for at the time. I had me a little wall unit and everything, and it was great. But then I went from there I rented a room for a little while, and then I got kicked out of there, and that's when I met I had met a family. I've met a girl at the Beverage Castle, and we've become really good friends. And she, I didn't have nowhere to go. You know, I lost my house or my room, so I went down to their house, and I'm standing in the driveway, and I'm talking to her, and she's like, "Well, you gotta talk to my husband." Well, kind of found out I went to high school. When I went to high school with her husband, and he said, "Well, about how long you think you're gonna need?" I'm like, "Man, 2 weeks tops. I'll have everything." Granted, I've been homeless for 9 months, but 2 weeks tops, I'll have everything figured out. Well, that turned out to be the first 2 weeks was disaster because I just could not quit drinking, and that's when she set me down. We had it underneath the porch there, and she said to me, "You either got to quit and start going to meetings with me, or you're gonna have to leave." Of course, in my mind, I'm like, "Let me go out one more time tonight," and it was 9/11. September 11th, and I was like, "Man, I don't want this to be the day I quit drinking." It's my sister's birthday plus 9/11. You know, I just didn't want to be remembered for all that. So 9/12 is my clean day, and I went out 9/11 that night. And I don't know how I got back to the camper or nothing because I stayed in their camper in their backyard, and that's when I found the rooms. The next day, I promised her I was going to go to a meeting, and it was, now granted, I've worked 6 to 2 while in active addiction. The first day that I got clean on 9/12, I had to work a double. And I had to cancel the meeting. I couldn't go to the meeting with the addict. And she just knew that I was making up some bullshit because I didn't want to go. But that's the truth. And then the next day, in the midst of all this, it was 2020, so it was COVID. So a lot of everything was shut down, and I just didn't get to, there wasn't a lot of meetings open. So thank God for the meeting in Arbordale, because it was open Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and I only had to find a meeting on Monday and Wednesday, and I just went to the other fellowship for that. But when I got into the rooms of Narcotics Anonymous, it's I just looked at women for the first 30 or 60 days there in Arbordale. Some would come pass through, and that's what kept me clean for a few It's what kept me clean. Y'all kept telling me to come back, and damn sure I was coming back, And that's what I did. Before I knew it, there was something about this one particular woman. She was sharing in this room, and I wanted to come and hear her share so bad, and I did. And shortly after that, she sent me a Facebook message or a friend, and we become really good friends. And I jumped in her pocket, and I literally followed that woman and did whatever it took to stay clean. I didn't care what she could have told me to do, anything, rotate tires, and I did it. And I did that up for about a month and a half, and then my gig at the camper came up, and the addict came to me after a meeting and told me, like, "Hey, the neighbor might be interested in buying the camper." So I panicked real bad, and I jumped into a relationship real quick, and I moved in with her real fast, and that lasted about 4 months. And I called the addict back. The camper never got sold, thank God. And I went back to the camper, and I sat there, and for those 2 months, they were beautiful. It was probably the most peaceful 2 months I've ever had. And then I went to a concert and got into another relationship with an addict, and this addict eventually moved in with me, and she wasn't clean, and it's I think that was my higher power telling me and showing me what it was like. I couldn't. I seen myself when I seen her when we were with her, and that's what kept me clean, is I never wanted to do that again, and I did that for 6 or 7 months, and so when she came to me, she says, "I think I'm gonna move back in with my mom," and I'm like, man, that's God doing for me, because I did not want to be the one to tell her she had to go, and we're still good friends, and now she's doing good, and but you know, I was thinking too. I went to the bonfire last night, and that was my third bonfire experience going, and the first one was amazing. I shared on it last night because I only knew one person when I went to that, because you have to remember, when like I said, I only went to Arbito meetings, so if you didn't go to Arbito's meetings, I didn't know who you were. So when I showed up to that the bonfire, you know, I was like, man, where y'all been hiding? I didn't know. I thought there was only 8 people in this county that was sitting out the and it's there was 40 people sitting out there underneath at the bonfire, and it just it was just I'm amazed, because you know, this past year I had another heart attack, and it was weird too, because the cardiologist, they couldn't tell me what caused it. They said it was like you know, if you keep going over speed bumps, like an apartment complex or whatever. And I guess that's what ended up happening. But in the meantime, you know, when I was in this last relationship, I learned a lot in it. Because I made sure that she was taken care of, but I didn't take care of me. And, you know, I wasn't taking my medicine right. I wasn't going to the doctors right. I wasn't eating right. It's just, I got to know my sponsor really well in this last relationship. Something that I didn't do the first year. But the last one, I was talking to another addict, because I think, like Kylie said at the beginning, I think suggestion's pretty good. And instead of being in the relationship I was with my wife, I started to second guess myself. Was I even really in one for 25 years? And I don't know. It's I'd probably say no. You know, it was because I wasn't codependent so much on her as I just was the drug. I had to have the drug, rather whatever it might be. But I don't know. And then I'll close. This is, and I can't make up shit. I swear. When I get up this morning at 7:30 and I go outside to have a cigarette, and I'm walking out, and my neighbor, who's an alcoholic, and I was warned by my stepdaughter, because I live in their camper, that when they parked the camper where I live at, that the neighbors were alcoholics. So he comes walking out to me, and I'm getting ready to, I'm having a cigarette, and he goes, man, if she drinks again over there, bro, I'm gone. I'm like, you know, I've heard that before, you know. I said, so you quit drinking too, right? He goes, no, man, I got my shit under control. And I'm like, all right, you know. He goes, I can't even make that up, because it's literally what I was just in. It's without the drinking part, but you know, here he wasn't able to own up to his. I'm like, how do you expect her to quit when you're not going to quit? And he goes, well, I took the bottles out of the camper and put them in the outside. I'm like she's not going to find them? I mean, you live in a camper, bro. I mean, that's like, I don't know. It's my life's pretty good today. You know, I got locked out of a bank Friday night at work, and there's white powder all over this bank because we just cleaned it, and I walked out of the bank, and they changed the badge on me to where me and my coworker's badge, we couldn't get back into the bank. So when we had to, this was like 1 o'clock in the morning. So by the time I got home, it was like 2:30. And I had to go home, turn around, and go back to Brandon to vacuum up all this. And I'm like, man, this is my biggest problem today. My life's pretty freaking good going right now. I have no complaints. You know, I was talking to another addict about medicine. And I just started a new medicine this week. And, man, it's really good. It puts me to sleep really fast. It's, of course, I take my medicine at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. So, and that's another thing. You know, when I came in here and I'm looking in the room, you know, I didn't know no one 2 years ago. And what what I thought were friends, and some of them are. Some of them still are. Some of them still do literally care for me and check on me. I just can't hang out with them anymore. But I am so grateful for each and every one of y'all, because I was scared, really scared when I took this job and what it was going to do with my recovery. And because I work nights and I don't get to see nobody hardly at all. I go to a bunch of new meetings when I can make them. I started step work. I'm almost done with step 2 after taking the whole first year off. And I don't know, life's pretty good. My son's moved back in with me, and that's it. I don't have time to talk about that. He's not here. Because he didn't use, so, or he's watched me, he just didn't need to be here. So I just that's all I got. Thanks for letting me share.